As you can see, we're moving right along. We've mounted several items. We now have a few other things that we need to mount. First of all, over here we have a Magpul Gen 2 sling. Uses a quick disconnect technology. We have yet to mount the Magpul front grip. This is the Daniels Defense free-floating rail that will replace the standard rail. We still have to put on the front sight and mount the flashlight. Over here we have a Vortex 3x optical, and I'm still waiting on the red dot sight to arrive. The first thing we're going to put on is this Daniel Defense rail. It's a free-floating rail with a special type of mounting. I got it because I don't have to do any modifications to the rifle. I don't have to modify the gas block or take off the bayonet clip or anything. So this is a nice addition to a gun. It's rather expensive, and then we're going to use this tool to put it on with. You don't need this tool to take the old one off and put the new one on. It's just a lot easier. I want to point out that because this is a carbine, I'm putting on the Daniel Defense Omega rail, which is 7 inches long. As we open this up, we're going to see what's packaged in the box. And here you see the rail itself. It's nicely packaged and sealed in place, so it's never been opened. I know it's a new one. And also we have in here some tools and some screws that we'll need during the installation. There are actually 4 screws that are involved in the installation, but one of them is already put into the rail to hold it together. As soon as I open this up, you'll see that stored inside of this rail are these 3 rubber tracks. They're designed to go onto the rails so you can mount your hardware and then fill in the rest of it with this track. And what this track will do is improve the gripping surface, cover the sharp edges, make it a better gripping surface, and sort of protect you from the heat. They're good additions to the gun, and I'm glad they're included. One of the things you'll notice here is that this is an extended rail, this tip sticking out. This tip sticking out will actually fit in and align with this top rail here, so it's a continuous rail now from the back here all the way to the front. As I mentioned, there is a screw already in place, and we'll have to remove this. This is actually 2 separate pieces. When you mount this, you want to mount the bottom rail first and then the top rail. I want to point out a couple things here. First of all, when you look into these screw holes, you see they're tinted red. That's always a sign that this is an original rail. Here you have a Daniel Defense Incorporated logo. It says it's made in Black Creek, Georgia in the USA. As I go down the rail, each side is marked with numbers. This is the right side. You can see them. The top rail says top. You can see the numbers on there. And the left rail says left, and you'll see numbers on there. That helps you to mount your hardware, if you take it off, in exactly the same position, so you don't have to try to set something in place and have to readjust it later. Back here on the back, you'll see it says Omega Rail Trademark 7.0 and the U.S. patent number. That's also an indication of an original rail. This is a smaller, lighter rail, which makes it nice to grip. It's made of high-quality aircraft aluminum. And if you look at the back of this, you'll see that it's kind of oblong. That's because when you're holding the rail, it fits better in the palm of your hand. It's not as wide. It makes a nice, easy gripping surface for your shooting. This is the part of the hand grip that goes against the gun itself. There's actually a groove in here that goes against the barrel nut, and you'll see 4 set screws that need to be tightened to align it properly. Those 4 set screws are what holds it in place, and when it's being held in place, the front of this handguard will be free floating. That way you can mount your front sights on it, for example, or optics, and it's going to stay adjusted properly, and you're not going to fall out of adjustment when you're shooting the rifle. Here you can see the screw is missing now. I've taken it out. If I take this apart, you can now see the 2 pieces. This is the top rail. This is about 2/3 of the diameter of the hand grip, and this is the bottom rail. It's about 1/3. Here you can see I've got this tool located in the magazine port of the rifle, and I have it wrapped around the delta ring, and I'm going to squeeze the grip, pull it down, and now when it's down, I should be able to remove these 2 pieces. Here you can see how quickly they come out when you pull it down. It's a lot easier using this tool, and it's a lot easier than getting your hands pinched. While I've got this pulled down, I'm going to put this on the gun, but first I want to show you inside of here. you'll see the barrel nut right here. The barrel nut is a part that holds your barrel on. It's very tight on the gun, and also the gas tube passes through it and sort of locks it in place. This little ring you see here that's cut in this channel, this fits around the barrel nut, and it's important that you position it properly. Here I'm going to lift this up in there, set it in there, and release it, and you can see it's locked right in place on that barrel nut. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. Here you can see I've got the same ring and the extension. That extension goes towards the gun. So I'm going to come over here and pull the delta ring down and fit this in here and snap it into place and make sure it fits around that barrel nut, and then release the delta ring. You can see it went in pretty easily. Here now you can see the main rail and the hand grip rail are lined up much better. Some people, when they get to this point, will put something mounted across this gap to hold it perfectly aligned. The actual alignment is done by the set screws that I showed you earlier. There's 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. It's recommended that you tighten the 2 top ones first to get the alignment. I'm also going to pay particular attention that I want it aligned front to back, and I also want it to be a smooth transition to show that this is at the same height as my main Picatinny rail. Here you can see there's these screw holes that I talked about before. There's 4 of them and there's 4 screws. I'm going to mount these in here and install these screws. I'm not going to show myself putting these screws in because you all know how to do that, but put those 4 in and firm them up fairly well. I want to show I've got the 4 screws tightened in place. I haven't tightened the set screws yet, and you can see this gap of light right here. That means this rail is not touching this front cup here. That's important. That's why it's free floating. But you'll also notice that it's moving. That's because I haven't tightened up these Allen head screws yet, these set screws. So when I do that, you'll no longer see this motion, but I did want to show that gap. There are many people saying that this barrel is not free floating. It is free floating because once you tighten this down properly, this handguard won't move. And because of that, it's what is defined as free floating. You can see here I've taken a carrying handle from another AR-15 that I've also modified, and I put it on here to help align the rails and also just to make sure they're at the same height. And once I've mounted that, it pulled them into alignment even better. I'm going to leave that there while I do the adjustments. As you start to do this, you may wonder why there's no instructions in the box. They're on the bottom of the box over here. And what it says to do is when you reach this point, you want to adjust these Allen screws. You'll see I have an Allen wrench right here in place. It says to adjust the top 2 screws first and adjust them down until they press against the gun barrel nut. And then once that happens, you can tighten the bottom 2 and it will create the alignment you're looking for. If it's not perfect, then what you do then is you can tweak these screws in different patterns to get the alignment you want. But in this case, with this handrail on here, I shouldn't have any problem at all. Here you can see I've got that set screw tightened down. It's up against the barrel nut, and it still extends a little bit. You don't have to tighten this down like you're putting your tires on your car. Just tighten it down until it's firm, and then move to the other top screw. But I did want to show it doesn't go all the way flush. I've tightened all 4 of these set screws down, and then I removed the handrail at the top to check the alignment, and it's right on the money. And then I went back, and 1 screw I could put maybe a 1/16 of a turn on it, and that was it. The rest of them are tight. And if you look at this now, this thing is rock solid. It's not going any place. It's not moving at all. That's what you want. You got a solid free-floating rail locked down by those set screws, and it's not wobbling. I do want to point out that when those set screws hit that barrel nut, they stopped and they didn't move at all. There's not much you can do to them, so just don't over-tighten them. I want to show you that I'm looking down both rails right now, and you can see how perfectly they're aligned, and this should be a good setup for my mounting of my other accessories. I like this Daniel Defense Omega rail. It was easy to install. It's exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm ready to mount the other accessories. I'm going to rate this at 5 stars. This review is done by JJ CEO.